So, uh, when you were saying about that, it helps productivity, and it's not much of a learning tool, but some people have this misconception that it's a learning tool and it's like canceling your mind and your thinking
Yeah.
process. Especially the new developers, the AI is growing more and more into their work and daily work. What will be your advice to them, and the best way to use it in the most balanced way?
That is a really good question. And I think it's got many answers, right? So a lot of people get really worried. I won't say terrified, but worried about their jobs and their roles when AI is brought in. AI will never be as smart as us, right?
Yeah.
AGI might be, so advanced general intelligence. That's a long way off. But in what we're doing right now with large language models, they're trained on what we have said, right? So they can never be as smart as what we are. So there's that aspect to it.
Hmm.
I think the key thing for me around all the co-pilots and anything to do with those sorts of things is productivity. So we mentioned that, right? So if we move away from the idea that it's going to do my job for me, because you'll still have to look at the things that it produces, it just means that I won't have to spend all my time producing it. So what does that mean? So a good example here would be something like the whole no and low code revolution that's been happening over the last few years. So things like Power Platform is a good example of that. So again, as a person who used to sell solutions for Microsoft, Power Platform is really, really good at solving very specific problems. Excuse me, business problems, right? Gnarly business problems where you might have a bunch of forms, you might have, excuse me, really, really simple stuff to query. You can build complex applications, but you don't want to write the applications. That's a great use case for no and low code. Doesn't mean that an environment like a corporate environment is going to get away from a bunch of people who need to do development, because there'll be all the other applications that actually still need to be built because they can't be satisfied by low and no code. I don't see the co-pilots as any different to that, right? So the co-pilots are, in order for me to be more efficient in my day and get more done, because really, that's a key metric that we all have. We all have KPIs around
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, right? So if I can get more done in my day, one, it means I'm less frustrated because I'm getting more done, and that's what I enjoy doing because that's my job.
Yeah, exactly.
And two, I'm getting more done, right? So that's good for everybody.
Yeah,
I've got less
exactly.
frustration and I'm getting more done, right? So if I can use a tool, and the Copilot chat is a good example of this, or just GitHub Copilot generally, and I get it. Okay, well, I don't want to have to write tests. Can you write the tests for me? Yes, I can write the tests for you. Can you tell me what's wrong with this code? Because I've just inherited this piece of code and I
Yeah.
don't know anything about it. Or can you describe this code for me? Or can you write me an MQTT message broker because I'm transferring from Mosquito on premises to something else in the cloud? Can you write me a message broker? I want to be able to not have to Google and read through thousands of articles or hundreds of articles to get to that point. I want to create a bit of code and read through 5 articles to get some understanding. So that to me is where those sorts of tools come in. It's about productivity. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where hardcore developers are diminished and gone, because because at the very least we'll have to have people write the AI solutions that produce the outcome. Right? So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
never get away from that, right? Skynet is not about to be sentient, thankfully. But I do think we are moving towards that more sort of composable architecture where people will write components and we'll stitch them together. Guess what? That's an integration story, right? Fantastic.
Mhm.
yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But even beyond that, I think we're moving towards those kind of architectures. But it won't remove the need for development. And I think that's, as a developer and as people who are developers, that's a key thing. And it's the same as if we're used to doing orchestrations in BizTalk, it's a visual
Yeah,
interface. Logic apps, visual interface. You know,
Mm.
other integration platforms, visual interfaces for drag and drop,
Mm.
right? You don't need to know that under the hood there's a bunch of code that executes that action. You don't need to know those things. So that's a productivity gain right there.
Mm.
And Copilot Chat is no different. It's just that it's helping you with the or GitHub Copilot
with
Chat,
the
helping you with the code. in making
Yeah.
you more productive with the code. Getting you to where you need to be quicker is really what it's about.
Yeah.
Yes, agree.